All right, guys, this is a good one. I hear this question all the time on my stream. People are always asking me, hey, who is the best undead hero? And that one's really easy. I just say, hey, it's Shudmel. Definitely the best undead by far. And then they're like, well, I don't have Shudmel, but I have some other undeads. And I'm like, all right, this is where it gets tricky. Because what you're going to see is no one really knows who the second or third best undead hero is, and there's not really a strong opinion on it right now. Everyone has different opinions, and everyone's using all of them right now, except for maybe one or two as the second best. So obviously Shudmel's on your main team, but on your second team, who do you use? So I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons to each one and who I think's the best. So if that interests you, keep watching, and if it doesn't, or if you just don't care about the reasoning, you just want to know the answer, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can skip to the time in the description. Actually, for all the videos in the future, I'll be putting a timestamp of basically like the final answer. So be looking for that in the description for each of these videos. So let's go ahead and get started. So who is the second best undead hero? So to do that, we're going to go ahead and compare these five heroes. I think anyone outside of these fives are definitely not in it. And some of those heroes that aren't in it are Wolnir. Uh, let's go ahead and look here on the screen. Wolnir, X-Death. I mean, he doesn't even go to 10 star. Spider doesn't make it. Gerald doesn't make it. These heroes are just not good, and it's pretty obvious that they're not that great. They're pretty easy to get, and they don't do enough damage. They're too slow. They don't bring if they bring CC, it's not enough, etc. So let's talk about the ones that do matter. And I've got a picture right here. Uh, Hester, Reaper, Aiden, Detlef, and Ripper. So the two most common ones I like people are always asking me, Hester and Reaper, which is better, Hester and Reaper. And this is because they've been around the longest, so they're the easiest to get. So and you might have both, so it does make it like a pretty obvious question. But I lumped in the other three because they're undead heroes too, and they're pretty good. So we're going to talk about that. So the first thing I like to do whenever I compare heroes, before I even read any of their skills, the first thing that I do is I go over their base stats just to have an idea of how hard they're really hitting when something says like 200% or 120%. And I made an easy list of it right here. So I didn't put the numbers because that's kind of annoying to look at, but I did rank them. And so what you'll notice is that the rankings are not in any order, so it's sort of kind of it's not hard to read, but I'll go over it. But Undead has low defense. I wanted to mention that all Undead has very low defense. So don't none of these are tanks, so don't worry about that. But their other stats really aren't that far apart, except for maybe one or two. So the rankings are going to be pretty useful. And oh, the one thing I really needed to mention, which I don't know why I kept leaving my mind, was that uh, the guild tech for all these heroes is the same except for Hester because she's a cleric. So Hester's speed is always going to be higher, and also Hester, while has one of the highest base attacks in the game, I think has the highest base attack in the game. But once you consider guild tech, she does not. She's actually fourth place in attack, which seems pretty low. But guild tech gives you 30% extra attack. That is a lot. So definitely remember that when you're thinking about Hester. Even though it looks like she has high attack, she really doesn't. Um, so Hester came in fourth for health. Let's start from the top. Reaper has actually the highest health, and it was by quite a bit too. And then second was Detlef, third was Aiden, Hester was fourth, and Ripper was fifth. And we'll come back to that because that's actually really important. Health is very important. Attack, first place was Detlef, second place was Reaper. That one was pretty close. Ripper was third, Aiden or Hester was fourth, and Aiden was fifth. And Aiden was really far below, even with the buff from Guild Tech was really far below for some reason. Like I said, defense doesn't matter. First place is they have 9 defense. It's Ripper, Detlef, and Aiden, and then tied for second is Hester and Reaper with 8 defense. So you're not. It's not a big deal. Speed, on the other hand, Hester is obviously the fastest, but Aiden actually came in pretty close to Hester. The reason Hester is fastest is because of the guild tech from clerics, giving them 100 extra speed, which is crazy. But Aiden came in second, Ripper came in third, Reaper came in fourth, and Detlef last with like really low speed at 1191 base speed, which is kind of odd. But those are the base stats, so keep those in mind. I'm going to be referencing them when I compare the heroes. But let's do that now, actually. Now let's look at their skills. Like I said, the second thing, first is base stats. The second thing I want to look at is their skills. So we'll start with Hester. We'll go from left to right at 10 star, of course. So Hester deals a 200%. That's a lot. But remember, she's fourth in attack. That's still a really high percentage damage to the backline, with a 36% chance to petrify them for 2 rounds. So let's just break that down first. So it's only to the backline, which kind of sucks, but not terrible. It's half. And then petrify chance, which is pretty good. Like bringing CC is always really useful for any hero, so that is good. 36% chance is a good percentage too. And then increases skill damage of the whole team by 25% for 3 rounds. So since she's really fast, this is also good for Hester. And it's like the only cleric part about her, I guess, is that she buffs them a little bit. Skill damage isn't as good as attack, but 25% is a lot, and it's 3 rounds, so they're guaranteed to use their skill during or after this. Even it'll even work for her most likely if she doesn't get CC'd. So one thing I wanted to point out is that Hester's main skill looks really good, but really her other skills not great. Like counters dodge, which is okay against some tanks. She's the counter to Mulan, by the way. She's really really good against Mulan. I should have mentioned that. Increases hit rate and attack. This is a useless passive really, and she gets a lot of attack when below 50% health, which is good, making her probably the highest attack, but it's not really reliable, right? Usually by then she's CC'd. So let's go ahead and move on to Reaper. So Reaper deals 180% of attack to all enemies. That's really high, by the way, because he has high attack too, and it's to everyone. This is what's better. Reaper is better than Hester in this area here. It deals damage to everyone. So Hester, unfortunately, like later on in the battle, say they only have like one person left alive in the back line and like maybe three alive in the front. She has to hit that backliner even though it's only one. That's really frustrating. He has a 100% chance to silence all warriors for 2 rounds. 100% chance. Guaranteed silence on warriors. That's awesome. Anything with a 100% chance, really good. And then after he casts a skill, increases attack by 20%. You'll see why that's important. Then when someone dies, he gets defense break and attack. It's a lot. And then it has to be an allied hero. And then base defense break goes up. But this is the big one. So when he dies, he deals damage to everyone. This is one of the. I know it doesn't look like a lot, but this is one of the greatest things about Reaper. Even if Reaper is completely CC'd the whole fight, even if Reaper gets all his attacks dodged, this hits. This will happen, right? As long as he dies, which is very likely, he will hit people, and it's guaranteed damage. I really like that about Reaper. Off topic, I like it about Scarlet as well. And this is just like reliability. That's good to have. He has a 100% silence chance, and he's reliably doing damage. And if he gets lucky, like he has the chance to pop off, like just to go crazy. People are dying on his team. He's getting attacked. He gets to cast his skill multiple times. He's doing a ton of damage to everyone. So Reaper, you're he just does damage. Besides the silence, which is nice. Now let's talk about. Oh, I did want to mention the picture above me is very misleading, right? Like I put who's the best, second best undead. Well, it's definitely not Gerald. He's not even in contention for being uh, nowhere near the top 5. Next up, we have Aiden, and Aiden looks cool. Personally, I think he looks pretty cool. And he has a really interesting like concept or style, and that's basically the style of life stealing or healing himself as he does damage. So he deals damage to only 3 random enemies, which you could say might be the equal or better than Hester. And then he heals himself for 100% of attack on every skill cast, which his attack is really low, remember. He does inflict bleed on them, which might stack up because it's for 3 rounds. And then he does extra damage to wanderers. Unfortunately, Wanderers aren't really meta right now. Clerics are, but it's still good to have against people like Luna and Medusa and Mars. So for every enemy hero whose life is less than 61, he like as they get weaker, he gets stronger. That's all you got to know. Um, he does extra damage to bleeding foes. That's about it. So, say for example, he hits them and they start bleeding. It happens for 3 rounds. If he's not CC'd in 3 rounds, his next cast is going to be stronger, 50% stronger. When an enemy hero dies, he heals himself. Um, but if he kills him, he heals him for a lot more. This is so random. It's too RNG. I like that there's the guaranteed 100%, but that's really not enough. Like I said, remember, look at the base stats up there. His health is third. Like even Reaper and Detlef were both much higher than his. It's not like he has a lot of health. And 100% of his attack, he is last place in attack. His attack stat is really low for some reason. So this isn't. I know Aiden isn't. I think the problem with Aiden, like I'm almost like not excited, like downplaying him. No, he has a really good idea. I think his base stats needed to be a little higher, but he is the fastest, which is really good because he can like skip a lot of CC because of that. But honestly, I don't know if he's fast enough. We're not on Reaper. Let's move on to the newest hero, Detlef. So Detlef got a lot of hate when he was first announced, and people saw his skills. And you'll see right away. I'll just go ahead and show you. Deals damage. Wow, that is a big percent. And remember, he's the second highest attack out of these heroes to the enemy with the highest attack and heals itself. So similar to Aiden that he heals himself, by the way, but he's healing for a lot more than Aiden does. But he's only hitting one enemy. And that's just the way Taptap is played is there are 6 enemies on each team. Killing one of them, or even it's not going to kill him. It's not going to one shot. But doing a lot of damage to one is really not good enough in the meta where everyone's like random people are getting CC'd. People are doing like massive AoE damage. That's just making it hard for heroes to just like survive the like. Say you have a Freya, a Reaper, Medusa. They like hit everyone, and they hit everyone that hit everyone. It's almost nicer to like get everyone to low health than to just kill one guy, right? Um, inflicts additional damage upon targets with less than 50% HP, which is great, but that's not gonna matter at the beginning. Like early on, this is probably like the second time he casts his skill, you'll notice that. But it's too random, again, too random. So he's immune to bleeding, which is good. That's good against Medusa. That's good against Aiden. That's good against like some other random heroes that don't matter. But basic attacks deal damage to the enemy with the lowest HP, makes the target bleed for 2 rounds, which causes extra damage. Okay, so forget all that. Basic attacks hit the lowest HP enemy. So that's kind of neat. I like that. And he makes them bleed. But forget all that. The bleeding doesn't matter. The really important thing here is that he reduces the healing effect by 50%. So if you try to heal the hero that left has a bleed on, they will get 50% less healing. This is nice, but it just you're not the fourth skill is not going to be what you want it to be. What you want the fourth skill, you want me to click it and you want to see something where this applies more than to one person. Or you want it earlier up in this skill to say basic attack deals damage to 3 random enemies or 4. Or he needs to apply this specific bleed to more than just one person. But one person's not enough. And passive skill, this hero deals an extra 60. So this is really good because he can start bleeding them and then he can hit him with their main skill. So he's trying to burst one person down. But the enemy with the highest attack isn't necessarily the one with the lowest health. So it might not stack up. But still, 60% is a lot of extra damage. That's like 60% extra true damage on top of what he would regularly hit for. So the last one I'm going to talk about is Ripper. Probably the um, probably the coolest looking undead hero in my opinion. But so he damages 2 backline, so that's already not that great. Only 2, and it's random. Causes extra damage for 5 rounds, which is All right, which is good. 45, and he has a chance to stun. That's really good, and it's a high percent. But remember, Ripper came in with like average speed and really well. We almost even don't even need to read Ripper's abilities. He poisons people, and he has a chance to stun. Um, and he poisons a lot and for a long time. Here's the problem with Ripper: his health is way too low. He has 75,000 health, base 10-star stats. That is way, way, way too low, and it's just he dies too fast. He has no way to heal himself. He has low defense. While the bleed damage is really good, or the poison damage is really good, and the stun is really nice, it's just and he has a damage reduction. You'll see increases reduced damage, but it's not enough. It's not going to stop him from dying. Um, and too random. It's similar to Detlef where it only hits one. Ripper only hits two. It's just not great. So overall, let's talk about one more thing. I'd like to talk about the synergies and the counters. I mentioned one earlier that I forgot to write down, but Hester counters Mulan really hard. Mulan tank is all about dodging. Hester reduces enemy dodge. Also, Hester is green, undead. Mulan is blue, alliance, meaning there's a 15% extra chance to hit already from the faction versus faction bonus. But let's talk about some other counters. I mentioned this, but Reaper counters Warriors. 100% silence chance. That's really good. Definitely something to remember. Next, Aiden. All right, this is a stretch. Aiden doesn't really counter Valkyrie, but if you'll notice, I'll bring it up here. This is one of the things about Valkyrie that makes her really, really strong. Is whenever someone dies, she heals the ally with the least amount of HP by a lot, 300%, almost to the point where I've seen her out heal Shudmel's. Um, so obviously, the basic attack of Detlef um, focuses the lowest HP hero. So this is really good. Like he's gonna attack them, someone's gonna die, and then they'll try to shoot. A Valkyrie will try to heal them up, and they'll take 50%, so only 150% of attack, which is not. It's still good, but it's not that great. So there's a small counter here. Small counter. Also remember, it's if he does end up hitting Valkyrie, it's undead versus alliance, so you're 30% extra damage. Okay, let's talk about some synergies now. Um, So some really obvious ones are Hester actually synergizes well with Medusa because Hester petrifies. And let's go check out Medusa real quick. And Medusa does 60% extra damage to petrified units. So Hester is faster than Medusa, which is great. So she'll cast it, increase the skill damage of Medusa. If she petrifies anybody in the backline, Medusa's going to do insane amount of damage to them because Medusa's attack set is really high already. She's pretty strong. The next one is Aiden also does well with Medusa, but in the opposite way. Like Hester buffs Medusa, Medusa actually buffs Aiden. So in the sense that she hits everybody and she deals bleed. She puts bleed damage on them. So that's really good. And then lastly, is a funny one, but Detlef and Aiden work well together. Not that you'd ever have them on the same team, but Aiden bleeds, Detlef bleed does extra damage to those bleeding enemies. It's a good combo, I guess. I don't think it would ever happen, but I had to mention it because it was funny. When we're comparing them, and they end up actually being well together. Um, all right. So to summarize, to wrap it all up, and to actually give my opinion. One, Hester's attack isn't as high as it looks, unless she gets below 50% health and is able to cast her skill. But the CC is really nice, and the buff to her team is good. Two, Reaper silences all warriors, guaranteed death damage, has the ability to just go crazy and do a ton of damage if not CC'd. Three, Aiden, really cool idea. Um, Self-healing, doing damage, just doesn't work out. Detlef, uh, he needs to hit more than one person, but it is a nice counter to Valk. I do like it. Um, Possibly good if enemies are bleeding before he attacks. Potential one-shot damage, especially to Alliance heroes, where he does 30% extra damage. Then he does a 270% on top of a 60% bleed. He already has a high base. Remember, he's second here on the base attack, first on base attack. Sorry. So he might have the potential to one shot, but it's only one enemy. Uh, but there's potential there. And then Ripper, unfortunately, he's just not good enough for PvP. But for guild boss, or sorry, but for friend boss, I think Ripper is amazing. Probably the top three hero for friend boss. Just if he doesn't die, he's just stacking bleeds, and you know how or poisons, and you know how strong poisons are on friend boss. So, uh, not I think in the order I would put him in is I'm actually gonna rank. It really depends on what you're fighting. A Reaper is the best if you're up against more than one warrior. I think Reaper is the best hands down. Um, if you don't have a lot of CC on your team, like I think Hester is the best because she brings um, that backline. So if you don't, it depends. This is funny because I'm not giving a ranking, but if you don't have a lot of CC on your team, pick Hester. If you don't have if you need more damage, pick Reaper. If your fights go on for a long time, like if you're going to have a bunch of healers on your team and you know that you can last up to like maybe 6, 8 rounds, Aiden is going to do damage. Pick Aiden. He'll survive because of that. Um, and then lastly, Detlef. Oh, while he is new and he's unanswered, I actually think he fits in. Um, he fits in on any team that can get his bleed, that can help him with bleeds. So if you have a Medusa, consider it. If you have another Aiden, consider it. If you can get anyone, if you already have someone who has bleeds, I really do think Detlef is your best choice. So, and sorry, no Ripper for PvP, but definitely if you want to build them for PvE, go ahead. So that was my summary, and it's really funny. I'll go ahead and show you what the final verdict is. It's all of them. So I hope that helped. And please stop asking me who's better now because it's Shudmel, very OP, and then there's this giant gap, and it's one of these guys. So there you go. Thank you.